Hello and welcome to Talk of the Game. It's a bit of a review. It's just finished Lens 0, West Ham United 0 in their final pre-season friendly ahead of Manchester City next Sunday, who've just got beaten 3-1 by Liverpool in the Community Shield as well. But we're going to talk about the West Ham game. Gonzo, I'm pretty much going to skip straight to half-time, really, because there wasn't that much in the first half. Rice and Benrahma had long-range efforts that the keeper had to deal with, but dealt with comfortably. But other than that, there wasn't really much in a way of a threat from West Ham. I felt the game throughout, but especially the first 45 was very stop-start. The referee was peeping for everything. It was just a bit...
It was. Look, I've got to be perfectly honest with you here, Geo. First of all, I tried to get on the West Ham website. I sent you a screenshot tonight. It said, whoops, something is wrong. Couldn't get on there. Couldn't get the game on there at all. In the end, I went on to the long... YouTube channel, but it was the frame rate was such that somebody would pass it and you didn't then see it in sort of 10 meters time or so. So it was so jittery. It was really very fuzzy. It's very one of the worst streams I've ever seen in my life, actually. But probably a good one. Probably a good one to not be able to see individuals. I could tell who Soufal was, aside from because he was down at the bottom of the screen. Aside from that, I really struggled. What did become apparent, what was apparent though, was very early on, whilst I couldn't see who the individuals were, there didn't seem to be a striker. We seemed to play without a striker, which was incredibly disappointing. But obviously, I would understand the reason for Moyes not wanting to play either of them. But aside from fitness, I'm not entirely sure what can be learned from doing that. And you're talking about that first half. How can players learn their positions relative to how the manager wants them to play at the start of the season when basically the focal point of the team is not there? Literally, the very thing that the team is going to try and hang their coat on is literally not there. You know, it's just no hub. So I'm not sure tactically what can be learned from there. I've got to say I was a little bit worried that we've seen three at the back again. I'm not sure it's the best thing we can play. I think a lot of our best games have been with four at the back, but he's played it so often in pre-season now. I'm a little bit worried about it. It has to be said. So it was no surprise really, Gio, in that first half. Bearing in mind we didn't have a striker, that we didn't seem to attack very much. Why would we? We didn't have an attack. And all throughout pre-season, I thought we've lacked a bit of creativity, which is why we were trying to bring Lingard in, why we're trying to bring Kostic in. We do lack basically the final pass to like, but not only did we not have anyone to load the bullet, we didn't have anyone to fire the gun in this one. Weird old first half, really.
Yeah, I know it's only pre-season stuff, but that's sort of what we've seen all pre-season and for large parts of the second half of last season as well, where we're just lacking that creative edge and we're not really, it's not just we're lacking it, we're lacking any belief or any attempt to find a creative edge. Benrahma did a really good one in the first half where he took it past 2 or 3 players to the byline and then just passed it into the area. It wasn't really like aimed at anyone or anything like that. And we did it on a couple of occasions in the second half as well. There was a cross from Masuaku. Put it in the box, there was literally no one there. Bowen did it. He got the ball, went out wide, crossed it. There was no one there, and it was just a little bit strange. I think the only reason I could suggest is why Fornals was striker, essentially, is because Bowen is playing in the position he will play against Manchester City. I think I could almost understand why Moyes is saying, well, there's no point you playing up front today, then next week you're playing on the right because Antonio or Scamacca is going to come in. So just play on the right. But the problem is, Bowen on the right only works next to Antonio. It doesn't work next to Pablo Fornals. And I felt a little bit sorry for Fornals in the first half because he was on a hiding to nothing playing that role. If you're going to play like that, you need to have some form of acceleration, even just average pace. And he's not even that. You know, at one point he did get the ball on the halfway line. There was an opportunity for him to run at the defence. And he sort of took 2 or 3 strides and he found himself surrounded. He turned around and passed it. But I just thought, well, this is just not going to work. But, you know, the final friendly of the pre-season, you usually look for little indications of what we're going to do going into the season. I think we got that with the formation. I think it became very, very evident in the second half, which we'll get on to in a second. Before we do, I just want to point in the direction of our player ratings book. We do player ratings over on Patreon, and one thing we wanted to do, and a lot of our feedback from Patreon said, you need to track your player ratings all season. So at the end of the season, you've got an organic hammer of the year. So we thought, well, what's the best way? We couldn't think of one. So we created one. Now, these won't be for everybody. They're available on our store, which is in the links in the description below. Go check it out. But especially if you've got kids or something, we've created it in mind so that it's very, very simple. It's a very simple notebook. You just fill it in for each game, a little player rating. So if you've got kids, do consider grabbing yourself one and encourage them to get involved. It sort of engages them a little bit in the West Ham one and sparks up a conversation between the two of you and hopefully educates your child a little bit in regards to player roles and stuff. Do they know what a left wing back is, so on and so forth. So if you fancy getting one, link is in the description below. I ordered quite a lot and there's still quite a lot left. So please buy them, essentially.
It's like me at KFC, basically.
I'll be honest with you, I bought too much. But I had to. The more I buy, the cheaper it is. And I don't want to buy them expensive because then I wouldn't sell them. So I had to get them cheaper. And now we're stuck with them. So, link in description. Anyway, second half gone. So, I mean, it wasn't even much better. But I thought what was really telling was the substitution. When Lanzini came on for Dawson on the hour mark. Now, that makes sense. Dawson's been out injured for a couple of weeks. Get him off, fine. But I thought we switched to 4 at the back for about 3 minutes. And then they carved us right open. Ariola's quick out to get it. But the striker just ran in between Johnson and Zuma like there was no one there. And then the keeper came out and got it. And then Rice went into the back 3. And we stuck with 3 at the back with Declan Rice playing left centre-back. That's telling, surely, that we are sticking with 3 at the back for the start of the season, with Man City in particular.
Yeah, I would fear so, which is... I mean, it makes it interesting, particularly given the players that we got and fitted into those situations. But it would sort of make sense if I felt it were better suited to it. It makes sense for our lack of wide players. The fact we don't have a left winger and we keep trying to play all sorts of different players in there. But it does pose an interesting question for those players that think that they're going to play at left wing, like Benrahma, like Fornals, like Vlasic. Then they're going to have to find different roles within this setup. That's for sure. It's also, I think, it's Moyes' solution to not having many centre-backs. So I wouldn't keep him out. I mean, the weird thing is, what do you do when you don't have many centre-backs? Play a system that requires more centre-backs. Initially, it doesn't make sense. But obviously, he can play Cresswell there. He will play Johnson there. And those two sort of wide defenders then become basically central defenders. So I do understand why he's doing it, but it does make me slightly nervous. I'm not sure how cohesive it is. I mean, you brought up pace, so I don't have to. It did, whilst it wasn't immediately evident whether I was watching Bowen, Vlasic, Fornals, Benrahma. They literally all looked the same to me. They were basically all pixelated dots running around the football pitch. It was clear that it was a slow team playing a fast team. And again, I make no apologies for harping on about it. This is something that probably needs to be addressed. If it's not addressed, we've got to play this system and we will find ourselves playing progressively deeper and deeper because we don't have that recovery pace on the turn, which I do think Agerd was a big part of that because he's quick. And obviously we're without him for at least a couple of months, aren't we? You mentioned Lanzini as well. I thought he was better. At least I think it was Lanzini. It could have been anyone, quite frankly. But I think he seemed to come on and control the ball and at least give us a little bit of tempo to our passing, a little bit of flow to our passing, if you like.
Yeah, I was a bit confused with the left wing back situation, really, because that's the big question, isn't it? I know we'll do a City preview during the week, but if he is going to play 3 at the back, we know Zuma will be in there, Dawson will probably be in there, and then it's a case of does he want Johnson on the right or does he want Cresswell on the left? That is the question David Moyes will have to ask himself. But my big question is who the hell is playing left wing back? Because Masuaku has been accumulating plenty minutes during pre-season, and I'm almost a little bit worried that might be our intention. I thought Fornals actually played quite well left wing back today. However, you have to take into consideration 2 things. 1, it's a friendly, and 2, the opponent. It's far different playing them in a friendly than it is coming up against Kyle Walker bombing past you.
Yeah.
But Fornals did play left wing back against them the last home game of the season just gone, obviously, and obviously we played really well against Manchester City. But then why have we not played Fornals? You know, I've just given justification for Bowen not being a striker today, but I can't use that for Fornals because it felt like Fornals was then out of position playing as a striker rather than put him left wing back and put Vlasic as a striker, or we just play Mubama in the striker role today. So we actually have a striker on the pitch. And there's one player's lack of minutes is a little bit worrying, and that's Flynn Downs. We just didn't see him. I thought we were, after Declan Rice moved into centre-back, so for the last half hour, I thought we were getting ripped apart in the middle of the pitch, quite frankly. Connor Coventry came on. I thought he actually played quite well. But Connor Coventry plays really deep. He plays just in front of the centre-backs, which is fine, but not when you're in a midfield pairing, because then it becomes very lopsided. You've got, say, Souček to the right, Coventry in the middle, but there's nobody there on the left-hand side. There's a big gaping hole. I was just a bit surprised that we've not seen more of Flynn Downs at all in pre-season. We've seen bits of him, but not really much. And again today, when Rice went back, it was Lanzini and Souček. I thought Souček was playing really poorly today. A lot of sloppy passes from him. And I was quite disappointed because I thought he's had a strong pre-season so far. But the middle of the pitch was an area of concern once Declan Rice moved back into defence, because we just seemed quite anonymous. Yeah, there you go, Richard, just saying there. Downs came on with 5 minutes to go. It's
the Souček, wasn't it? I believe.
Yeah, but just
I do remember thinking, what's the point in that? Look, but you know what? Here's what I think about it anyway. First of all, my initial thought was Flynn Downs. I just hope he doesn't get the Vlasic treatment this season. I hope he's given a fair crack at the whip, and I think he will. I don't think Moyes cares about these pre-season friendlies, aside from, he said it in an interview, I almost don't think he cares about formation. I think in many respects he doesn't care about performance. I think he cares about goals. I think he probably cares about two things. I'm going to contradict myself here saying he doesn't care about formation. Is he has one worry from last season, and that is that we weren't good enough defensively. I think he'd be pleased with that. Okay, because he's going to try and find a system. Moyes is confident that we'll score goals this season, and our average over the last 2 seasons indicates we probably will score goals. As much as we're worrying about lack of creativity and stuff like that, Moyes' probably primary concern, which is why he goes and has got the central defender. The first thing he did last season, central defender. First thing this season, central defender. His primary concern will be that defence. He'll probably look at that and think, actually, that ain't too bad. And he'll probably look at it and think, well, hold on, they've got a decent level of fitness now. The last week in training, I can probably get them up to the level where they want to be. I can probably drill them and then get the players into the team that will make the difference. And that could be any number of things. It could be that he plays Cresswell at left centre-back and Johnson plays over as wing-back or something like that, which ordinarily we wouldn't like, because actually attacking going forward, it ain't so great. Actually, when you play in Man City, to have Johnson as a wing-back might add an additional bit of defensive cover and help Cresswell out, who is a little bit suspect defensively, particularly against the top teams. And so I don't think Moyes would be that disappointed with what he saw there. I almost think he might have been a bit suspicious if we were tapping it around and controlling the game. Maybe not what he wanted to see in that. So I don't think he'll care. I really don't. There's little things that worry us, like the lack of a striker, as you say, Flynn Downs. There's little micro things that as fans we're sort of looking at that. Because we need an angle. We don't have any contact with the team throughout the week. Moyes has got them on the training ground. We wait all week for this little snippet of West Ham. And I can see, people who are worried about it, being annoyed with people that aren't worried about it, and people that aren't worried about it being annoyed with people that are worried about it. I can see that. But you know what? This is the thing. But this is our only insight into West Ham, for the week, because we haven't seen the training. All I would say is I think Moyes is probably a lot less worried about it than a lot of other people at the moment, and probably quite confident that he can keep a clean sheet against Man City.
I agree with sort of half of that. I think Moyes does care to some extent, because we saw after the Rangers game, he was visibly fuming. How much was that down to possibly just finding out that Lingard had rejected you in West Ham and he's off to Forest? He might be a little bit angry with something else there, and it's come through that he was pissed off with the formation or his team that night. And you can understand why, if he's found out Jesse signing and he's watching that from West Ham, he's probably like, oh, I'm not having this. I agree with you. A week before the season kicks off is different as well, because now it's don't get injured is almost the ultimate priority today. There was a couple of tasty tackles going in from both teams there as well. I mean, we had 2 bookings. When do you ever get a booking in a friendly? We had 2 of them. Which they were feisty though, weren't they? I thought they were. Yeah, I thought both teams were. I thought Bowen at one point had a little thing with someone. Fornals did, and I have to say, Ben Johnson's yellow card. That was a Premier League game. I would come on here and almost give a man a match for that foul, because they were through on goal and he wiped someone out just outside their own box. He just took him out completely and said, "You can have your free kick. I have a booking if I out of mine." Because that guy was through on goal. And you could see they were getting angry with the referee saying, "Oh, we were through on goal here." Really clever play by Ben Johnson there to take him out. But let's just, because it's the end of pre-season, Victor's right. It means nothing to some extent and whatever. But Paul's asking, is there any positives? Not just from today, but just from the summer in general, Gonzo?
Yeah, listen, again, I think the truth somewhere in the middle doesn't mean nothing. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a pre-season, but it doesn't mean everything either. There's reasons to have a pre-season and it means something. What it doesn't mean is that we're getting relegated because we've played crap today. That's definitely what it doesn't mean. In the same way that if we had an Avram Grant type pre-season, doesn't mean we're going to win the league. Are there positives? Well, Moyes will think that defensive shape. Moyes will think if he's come up with a defensive shape, that will be a positive. I'd also think there's a massive negative. So I don't want to class Lingard because that's not really pre-season, it's transfer market. The massive negative will be a Gerd. I mean, that was that one little bit of miscontrol and then the recovery tackle is quite costly to what David Moyes probably wanted to do and his vision. He'll be really delighted that Dawson came back today because it still looks as if, I thought this last season, like Zuma is trying to work his way back into fitness. And whilst there wasn't a lot of pace on show, the lack of pace is not the same as an overall fitness. I think probably overall fitness, probably quite a lot of fitness in the team. I think Rice looked fit. I thought Souček again looked fit without looking particularly good. If it was Souček, could have been anyone. I think Bowen looks fit. I think there's a lot. It
wasn't putting down. He was on the bench.
No, it wasn't. So, I think there's a lot of positives there in terms of fitness. In terms of injury, there'd be a couple of your negatives. As I say, we got a Gerd there, and of course, Ogbonna, as I understand it, Tony was there. Funny enough, we got a little report. Tony's, bless him, Tony's went to the game today where Ogbonna scored no goal, and Tony's done a little video for us. We'll be sticking up on Patreon in the morning, little review and stuff like that. And apparently, Ogbonna looked injured when he was playing today as well. So I think when you look at that, Moyes, you'll be looking at it and thinking, right, okay, this is we've got some problems at centre back, so he's searching for the shape. So bearing in mind the injuries, Geo, I think he might look at the shape as a positive in terms of protecting the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think Souček looks fit. I think Sufal looks all right coming down that right-hand side. Not his better game in pre-season, but I think he's looked good in pre-season so far. I think while Ben Johnson hasn't looked convincing at centre-back, he hasn't looked bad either. I think it's one of them you're really going to have to see him tested against better opposition. Hopefully not against Man City, though. I think that's a bit of a real tough one to throw him in for. This is a negative and a positive, and that is we're lacking creativity. Now, the reasons why it's negative is obvious. We saw it second half of last season, and we were poor. But the reason I think it's a positive is because there's no excuses to not fix this in the transfer window. It's not like, oh, suddenly Vlasic is scoring a goal every game. Ben Rama's doing all the assists and stuff. You remember last summer, Ben Rama was our best player in pre-season, and he carried that form into the start of the season. St. James's Park, he was one of the best players on the pitch. And then it sort of tailed off a little bit. It became a little bit inconsistent, whatever. But you can almost forgive Moyes for thinking that Ben Rama was going to have a really, really good season. Now, I'm not saying he didn't. I'm not saying he did, whatever. My point is, Ben Rama was in form last summer. This summer, there's no form from Ben Rama. There's no form from Fornals. There's none from Lanzini. There's nothing from Vlasic. Maybe a little bit of hope that he's settling in. That's it. There's nothing more than that. I've been relatively impressed by what I've seen from Vlasic, but not enough to say that that guy is going to be our creative player this summer. So we've actually been starved of creativity in pretty much every friendly so far. So there's almost no excuses now to go get that man, whoever it might be, whether it is Kostic, Zielinski, or David Moyes has got player number 3, player number 4 ready to get bids in for. But there's no excuses for not noticing this, because it happened last season and it's continued through pre-season as well. Some things have improved going from the end of last season to now, like Souček's fitness, etc.
Yes.
But one thing that hasn't is the creativity. That is, we've struggled a little bit. We've looked a little bit boring. We've looked like we are going to struggle against teams to break them down from open play. And I want to see it rectified, really. So I'm going to take that in a really weird way as a positive.
Mate, you know what? It's just one of those things. I can see, people are angry. I can see in the chat people are angry. I can't. I'm not feeling that myself, really. I think there's a lot of evidence over the last 2 seasons that suggests we're going to have a good season. But what it wasn't was an entertaining game or a thrilling pre-season. It really wasn't. But I wouldn't put it past us to start the season quite well, to be perfectly honest. We've got good players to come into the team, and regardless, I made a joke about Antonio in the build-up. Antonio is still a highly effective Premier League player, and if he's on form in that first game, he's going to cause. So I think Laporte's out as well. He will cause Man City's defence a few problems. I know we'll deal with that in the Man City thing. Hopefully, we'll have Scamacca there off the bench. Bowen's in fine form. Moyes will have his first choice midfield. There'll be good delivery from set plays. You never know. He might have signed another player. Even if he does sign another player, I wouldn't expect him to play against City anyway. It's gonna be interesting. The only thing I would say is we do lack creativity. I just hope he doesn't wait until transfer deadline day to sort that out. Let's get it sorted out as quickly as possible. And whatever creative player we do buy, be it Kostic or anybody else, let's try and get them on the pitch to earn some points before it gets to transfer deadline day.
Anyway, we'll leave it there. We'll have our player ratings over on Patreon. If you want to get involved, go grab your book. Link is in description, or go to hammerschatstore.com and have a look around and see what else we sell. We've got some good bits and pieces over there, although I am biased. On Friday, we have a massive Patreon offer coming. So if you're thinking about joining Patreon, wait until Monday. We've got a huge offer to tell you about. And then, of course, we've got all our pre-season and pre-Man City content coming out next week. We've got a season preview. We've got an opposition preview. And, of course, we've got our first match preview of the season going. So I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this review, probably not. But if you have, drop a like on it. Subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you in a bit.